From questions on accountability in government forecasting to controversy inside Canada's public broadcaster, another high-profile shakeup is making headlines. Travis Dhanraj and CBC have officially parted ways after months of internal tensions and growing scrutiny. Mr. Dhanraj, who served as the anchor of Canada Tonight, had been on leave since early 2024. The departure marks the end of a turbulent chapter that began when Mr. Dhanraj started raising concerns about what he and his legal team described as, quote, systemic issues within the public broadcaster. According to statements from his lawyer, his push for transparency, including questions about executive bonuses and editorial direction, put him at odds with senior management. For more on this, our correspondent Wyatt Sharpe reports.
And now we turn our focus to the high-profile and deeply public resignation of Travis Dhanraj, a former CBC News Network anchor who this week severed ties with Canada's national broadcaster, alleging a toxic internal culture marked by retaliation, exclusion, and psychological harm. Dhanraj, a well-known Canadian journalist of Indian descent, spent years with CBC, rising through its ranks as a reporter in Edmonton and Toronto, later co-hosting CBC Marketplace, and most recently anchoring Canada Tonight. But in a series of public statements released in recent days, Dhanraj said he was, quote, forced to resign and that he could no longer stay silent about the environment inside the newsroom. In his words, quote, the cost to my well-being is too great. Among the most serious allegations that after raising internal concerns about editorial bias, tokenism, and the lack of true inclusion within CBC leadership, Dhanraj says he was met with backlash. He claimed his access was curtailed, his name was removed from rebranding efforts, and that he was pressured to sign a non-disclosure agreement during an internal investigation following a tweet critical of the corporation's leadership. In his statement, he accused what he described as a, quote, small, tight-knit group of Ottawa-based journalists of resisting efforts to include a broader range of political viewpoints, especially those from the political right. Dhanraj's departure has generated significant attention both inside and outside the media world. While some Canadians have applauded his decision to speak out, praising his willingness to challenge the system from within, others are questioning the vagueness of the claims and pointing out that many of the allegations have yet to be independently substantiated. The CBC has responded by rejecting the allegations outright. In a statement, the broadcaster called Dhanraj's remarks a, quote, public attack on the integrity of CBC News and said it strongly disagrees with his characterization of the organization. CBC said it could not provide further detail due to legal and privacy constraints, but made it clear it stands by its journalistic standards and internal processes. The story has now moved beyond a personal resignation, raising broader questions about culture inside Canada's publicly funded media institutions. Dhanraj's remarks echo long-standing concerns from critics who say the CBC lacks space for true editorial diversity and that internal criticism, especially around race, representation, or political inclusion, is too often dismissed or punished. For Dhanraj, who has built a national platform over nearly 2 decades in Canadian media, the fallout is already significant. But he has also made it clear he's not done speaking out. In this public post, he said, quote, I'll have more to say when the time is right. As the stories continue to unfold, it shines a spotlight not only on the inner workings of one of the country's largest newsrooms, but on the challenges facing media organizations everywhere as they attempt to navigate credibility, inclusion, and trust in an increasingly polarized environment. Wyatt Sharpe, The News Forum.